A friend of mine named Joshua did a post, or maybe it was just yesterday, I don't know, um, where he talked about belief in God and how belief in God has been on the decline for many years in America, and how he really noticed it in people's response to the pandemic. That not very many people, or maybe none, in the public square, you know, in the news media and the online world, not many people were calling for prayer or appealing to the power of prayer, and that he correlated that observation to this declining belief in God, uh, and that perhaps we've truly crossed into a totally secular age where it doesn't seem meaningful, relevant, or convincing to appeal to something like the power of prayer in a time of pandemic. And so this got me contemplating, because I think what's really relevant is not whether people believe in God or not. I think what makes all the difference at these times of crisis, or whatever we want to call this, what makes all the difference is the distinction I'm going to outline now. I'm going to try to put it into words. There are those who believe so deeply that they're not even thinking it. It's an unquestioned belief that life is more or less random, accidental, and meaningless. And so the you know outbreak of a pandemic is likewise accidental, random, and meaningless, and just something that sucks that we're going to have to suffer through, and that maybe has a silver lining. Maybe we'll come together, maybe we'll bond, maybe there'll be some good outcomes, but it didn't happen for those reasons because things just happen. It's fundamentally, it's an insentient universe in which things just happen, right? So I noticed that those people who hold that worldview are the ones most likely to be freaking out, most likely to be upset, anxious, frightened, or terrified, triggered, and not able to find their center very easily. I'm not saying all of them, but there's a correlation there. Whereas on the other hand, I see a different correlation where the people who are able to, sort of be calm and trust in life in this crisis are precisely the ones that have a different worldview, the ones that sense nothing's accidental, nothing's random, nothing's meaningless. There is pattern, and life itself, whether we call it life energy or something else, is innately intelligent in ways that we can't necessarily understand, but it is. And this is, again, something that I believe through the process of awakening, one eventually comes to see and feel that that's how things are, as opposed to believe it. Because I want to make this distinction quite clear, that believing that there is pattern, believing that nothing's accidental or random, doesn't give the same effect on our whole system, our body-mind system, as feeling and sensing that that's the case. Okay, so what I'm talking about is the capacity to actually sense that nothing is random, accidental, or meaningless. Those people who can sense that are the ones who aren't freaking out. I'm fortunate to count myself among them. And so maybe this is actually what people mean when they talk about the power of believing in God, but it's not the power of believing in, some all-powerful being out there. Because let's be honest, if there's an all-powerful being sitting up on top of the hierarchy, then the only reasonable conclusion is that he's an asshole, you know, right? He just like, oh, I'm gonna send a pandemic. Let's see how they handle that, you know. That's just, you know, but I think maybe some people, anyway, who use the word God are meaning it in this sense that I'm talking about, which I prefer just to call the pattern, that life is innately intelligent. And it's not the intelligence of a mind or of a person. So, in that sense, I don't believe in God at all. But it's an innate intelligence to the way the pattern unfolds. And sensing that is what gives me this profound experience of trust. I trust life. I trust in the unfolding of life. And that includes trusting that, you know, when it's my time to go, to depart from this body, that's the right time, whenever it happens. There's no such thing as untimely death. That's just imagination, right? You know, I prefer to be around a bit longer, but I trust life. And I just want to invite this because some of you are on the fence, right? These words are not going to reach or impact those who are not on the fence. What I want to do now is just address those of you who are on the fence. Can I really trust life? And there's a capacity within you to trust life, and you just need this little bit of encouragement to do it. That's what this video is for. I'm just here to say, yes, you can trust life, and the impact of that trust is huge. You know, because of my trust in life, I don't live in fear or anxiety, even when there's a pandemic. Now, some might believe that people like me are totally delusional, to which I say, even if I'm delusional, I would rather be experiencing the way I am. I would rather be trusting life, because the benefits of trusting are so deep and profound. I don't think it's delusional, but I can't prove that to anyone. Okay? So now people have come up, this is the last little piece of the video, people have come up with stories about why the pandemic has happened, you know. My favorite one, which is at least half joking, is Mother Nature has sent us all to our rooms to think about what we've done. Now, some of these stories are half joking and some of them are very serious. People are like, oh, this pandemic has happened because we were fucking up the environment or whatever. But you see, I can search the web for that. We don't need to take those stories too seriously. For some people, they are just kind of fabrications. They are just grasping at straws. Oh God, why is this happening? I need some explanation. But at least a few people, you know, who are gently suggesting some of these things, maybe a few of those people are speculating on the basis of this inner knowing that nothing happens by accident and nothing is random or meaningless. But what I want to suggest to you is you don't actually need the story. You don't need to know in your mind why this is happening in order to trust. That might seem unbelievable, but it's not really trust if you have to understand why in order to trust. The deeper trust is the trust that trusts without needing to understand right now. Maybe later it'll be revealed how this fits into the whole puzzle of the interconnection of all life energy, right? But so what if you drop that compulsion to grab onto a story and you just trust this is not happening by accident, it's happening at exact right time, We don't know exactly why, but we get to see the unfolding. We get to find out what the benefits are, little by little. And let's not jump ahead. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's just let the actual benefits of this life challenge unfold of their own accord as we stay centered, support ourselves with self-care and nourishment, support others, right? Those who are trusting, those who are unafraid right now, have a duty, if you will, a dharma to support those who are frightened. And so please don't shame them and criticize them for being scared. Just empathize and support. That's what your strength, if you have inner strength and stability and clarity right now, that's what it's for. It's to support others with, not to shame them for not having that stability or clarity or trust that you have, right? And you guys are wonderful. You're not. I'm talking about subtle forms of shaming. You're not going around saying, "What are you so afraid of? You suck," you know. But it's subtle forms of shaming. Let's let go of those too, and just support each other, and not nobody's experience. It's just their experience. There's maybe some questions. Those of you watching, some. Oh, hello. More people are joining these live videos, I guess because they're home. Yeah, the video quality is bad. That's probably due to the fact that in America you pay a lot of money for worse internet than like most countries. Um, so I'm just skimming some of your comments. So someone suggests the possibility that trusting life is easier for the privileged. No, I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't know, but I don't think that's true in the sense that this particular pandemic, we know, first of all, um, is not discriminating. Apart from sparing children, it's not discriminating. It infects those in the highest rungs of political and social life, as well as everyone else. Um, but also, I would say that some of those beings I've known who trust life most deeply live extremely simple lives in even in what we might call poverty, you know, and in the Indian tradition, all the way down to the present day. I mean, not just in ancient times. Some of the most some of the beings held up as the highest exemplars of awakeness and liberation were beings who literally had nothing and had no privilege whatsoever. No, I don't think there's a very strong correlation there. I know many wealthy people who are utterly freaked out, and I know people who are not privileged who are not so freaked out. Um, Lydia mentions, I find myself running away from people, but how to support without losing my own awareness. Yes, self-care must come first, or you have nothing to support people with, right? You need to have your own centeredness, your own presence, your own strength. And so if however much you need to remove yourself from people who are freaking out, do it, right? You only have a duty to support when you're feeling strong, not otherwise. So just be honest with yourself about where you're at and what you're feeling. Yeah. So whereas Anouk mentions that he doesn't feel any fear, but when he goes into town and feels all the stress energy, it's overwhelming. Well, that's another opportunity, isn't it? To open to that and digest that energy. Let it actually add to your own aliveness. Don't try to block it out. Just let it all wash through you. And don't see it as something negative. It's just intensity, it's just energy. It's only overwhelming. Energy is only overwhelming when you think it's negative and that you need to resist it. Okay? It's not. There's no negative energy and you don't need to resist it. Um, yes, and of course, in non-dual view, we can have both of these simultaneously. Like James says, everything is absolutely always unfolding perfectly. And Sherry says, let's offer support in the form of food, water, shelter, and care too. That's exactly what is at the heart of the non-dual view. That if you truly get the non-dual view, it's not that it doesn't discourage you from acting, from supporting, from doing your part, right? So if this is a way of testing your own realization, actually. If you have realized the truth, you can feel, as James says, everything is absolutely unfolding perfectly, and you still are, you want to help. That's part of the perfect unfolding, after all, right? And you might get out there and work hard to help if there's a role that you can fill, which is helpful, right? And it's safe for others for you to do so, right? Um, so yeah, or donate to the food bank, whatever. There's ways you can help without leaving home as well. But these points of view are not contradictory, and if you think they are, you have not yet realized the truth. It's still just a mental construct, right? Um, and by the way, empathy does not mean agreement, because Richard says, how can we empathetically challenge misinformation? Well, empathy doesn't mean agreement. You can empathize with somebody's experience and then say yes, and what you're sharing is incorrect. Here, go to this fact checking website or whatever. Um, so Renee says our social conditioning is to correlate trust with resources in the bank. Yes, absolutely, and that's not the spiritual trust. The spiritual trust is you can lose everything and it wouldn't rob you of this trust if you really have it, right? Anything could happen. Um, as one of my teachers shared directly to me, as like I could be starving to death in the gutter, and I would never for a moment cease to trust in the unfolding of life. That's the real thing. I realize that's a high bar, but I'm just letting you know that that's possible. That degree of trust is possible. And cultivating that possibility is beneficial. Oh, my friend Brian says that when listening to this message, he personally feels deep calmness and peace in that brother. Um, and Stephanie raises the point of there's many conspiracy theories amongst the spiritual community. Are they a form of fear? Yes, of course they are. Spiritual people are trying to act like they're not afraid, but they're spreading these conspiracy theories, which are nothing but fear. Um, yeah. And Gisela, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. Gisela says, how could we digest or process this fear and let go of the story or the facts? Well, it's very simple. You have no idea what's going to happen. So anything your mind says about how this is going to go in the next weeks is imagination, right? You might say, oh, but it's based on these facts. Yeah, but you still don't know. Anything could happen. Literally anything could happen. um, this, I'm not going to get into the possibilities. Anything could happen. You don't know what's going to happen, so you stay in that unknowing. You realize you don't know, and you realize that not knowing is a state of great aliveness and anticipation. You can convert your fear, because fear is based on it's going to be horrible. It's nothing but a mental projection. It's going to be horrible. You don't know that. Stay with your experience right now. And your fear converts to a live anticipation of infinite possibilities. Automatically, all you have to do is stay with what's now, not with what's next, you know? Because in each moment, you can handle what's happening right now, can't you? When you go into the future, that's what you can't handle. You can handle now. And there's great unknowing. And the unknowing is beautiful. It's alive. In fact, if you can really access it, you'll feel more alive than ever. And Nora says, I'm fine, but if I think about all the people who aren't, I get sad. Yeah, and that's the bigger challenge, right? To trust the totality, to trust the unfolding of life includes moments where lots of people are scared, freaking out, hurting. They're hurt by their own fear primarily. A few of them are actually sick. But that's all okay. Even people feeling it's not okay is okay. And might be you might be like, well, it's easy for you to say. Yeah, but when I'm suffering, I can access the my essence nature, which always already knows everything's okay, suffering is okay. Um, and not everyone has that ability yet to access that, right? And that's okay too, right? Because all you have to do is look back at your own life. Remember, there was a moment when you were suffering and you thought you weren't okay, and you look back and you realize, actually, I was okay on the deepest level. Your body mind might have been in total pain and chaos, but on the deepest level, you know you were okay even when you thought you weren't. Well, why wouldn't you extend the same um, sense to those others? There are no others, actually. There's another form. So yes, I'm trying, and probably failing, to describe faith from a non-dual point of view. It's not really possible, but I'm trying. And if some of these comments will certainly be misunderstood, and that's okay. Um, and Noe says, I'm finding it challenging to trust what's happening as I'm a healthcare provider and being told by my hospital we don't need to wear a mask unless we're taking care of a suspected COVID case. Yeah, masks are short because I think the U.S. government infrastructure has failed, and hopefully they will wake up to the fact that the government, like in wartime, can requisition private manufacturers to make more masks and ventilators. That's what we need the government to do right away. Those of you in the U.S., please call your congressional representatives. Yes, the lines are jammed, but call and email and request, that the government, I believe it's called the DPA, the something something Act, by which the government can requisition private manufacturers, whether they want to or not, to make more fucking masks and ventilators. But anyway, that is like taking beneficial action, even as, again, on the deepest level, you can trust in the unfolding. You see, they're not contradictory. And I don't know how to prove to you that they're not contradictory other than to say that you will see that they're not contradictory in your own experience sooner or later. It's not something that can be logically demonstrated. And Heidi says, when I'm in a vulnerable state, isn't it better to take care of my own energy than be open to all energy? Yes, if you have the option. Some people don't have the option. They feel all the energy whether they like it or not. But if you have the option to not feel it and just take care of yourself, do that until you feel strong, and then step forward and support others until you don't feel strong again. Then step back and take care of yourself. It's a natural spanda. You know this. And Jose says, how can one reach that trust you speak about? There's no magic pill to get the trust, not saying you're asking for that, but there's no quick and easy way. It's cultivated through spiritual practice over a long time. All I can say is that sooner or later you will see for yourself that life always knows what it's doing, and that nothing could ever possibly go wrong. See, there I am saying a thing that's going to offend some people and upset some people and be misinterpreted. But this is from the deepest possible point of view, or the highest, if you want to say it that way. Because on the everyday level, yes, mistakes are real. People can make mistakes, and those mistakes can cost lives. But on the deepest possible level, when you have realized essence nature, you know in your bones that nothing could possibly go wrong. And mistakes are not wrong either. They're all part of the process. So if you don't have that yet, keep doing your practice. For God's sake, it's not optional in times like these, Press and open to this possibility, open to this this sense that you can have. It's not a belief, it's an actual perception of the nature of reality. Okay, well, there's more questions and comments, but I guess it's impossible to get to all of them. There's a lot more people watching these live videos than normal because everyone's online, I guess. I'll just do a couple more and we'll finish it at 30 minutes. Galit says, a few of my closest friends are very scared and they are angry with me for being so calm. I find that hard sometimes. Well, then there's your test, right? Don't pretend to be not calm, of course, if you're calm. And if they're upset at you for being calm, that's fine. You can choose to step back and say, I'm going to give you some space right now, people. Or you can choose to receive their anger and digest it. Either way, it's fine. Okay. Yes. And questions. Possibility that this pandemic could end up taking millions of lives, but that has not happened yet. So far, it's taken far fewer lives than malaria or even the flu takes every year. It could get worse, but we don't know that yet. If it does, then we'll grieve it. But there's no reason you need to think that anything has gone wrong, right? It would make as much sense as if you were to look back to 1918 and be like all upset about that, right? That was part of a historical process. This is part of a historical process. If you're not upset about 1918, why are you upset about now? Because you're living through it? Well, you lived through that too. You were there then. You just don't remember it. Sorry if that's not helpful. it is for me, but some things are not make sense to me that don't make sense to everyone. But lastly, Lydia, please don't think you're delusional if you're calm. Please enjoy the calmness and then reach out and support others with your calmness if they'll accept the support. If they don't want it, let them be. But if they'll accept your support, that's what your calmness is for. It's there to support others. Um, yeah. Okay. Take care, everyone. Let yourself feel that everything's okay, even if everyone else says otherwise. Why should you go with what everyone else says? Has the majority ever been right about anything, really? No. Let yourself feel that everything's okay. It's okay to feel that everything's okay. Om. Love you all so much. You're the best community ever. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being there for each other. Take care.